Imagine the heart of Washington, D.C. on June 16, 2025, a Monday that was anything but ordinary. The city buzzed with anticipation, as it was not only President Trump's 79th birthday, but also a day of historic significance for the nation. This date marked the 250th anniversary of the United States Army, a milestone that few institutions in the world can claim. The city was draped in red, white, and blue, with banners and flags lining the streets, signaling a day of celebration and remembrance. President Trump, never one to shy away from spectacle, seized the moment with a massive military parade, a display of power and pageantry he had long envisioned during his presidency. Columns of soldiers marched in crisp, modern uniforms, their boots striking the pavement in perfect unison. Interspersed among them were troops dressed in historical attire, a living timeline of the Army's evolution from the Revolutionary War to the present day. The ground shook as Abrams tanks, symbols of American military might, rumbled down Pennsylvania Avenue, their presence both awe-inspiring and intimidating. Overhead, the roar of military jets and helicopters filled the sky, performing flyovers that left trails of smoke and drew the gaze of everyone below. All eyes were on President Trump, standing tall on the grandstand, saluting the troops as they passed. His presence was commanding, a deliberate image of leadership and authority. The entire event was orchestrated to project American strength, unity, and the unwavering command of its president. It was a message to the world: the United States remains powerful and resolute. Yet, as the parade unfolded, the visuals told a more complicated story. Empty bleachers lined the route, and the crowds that did gather were thin, scattered along the vast expanse of Pennsylvania Avenue. Despite months of planning and the administration's best efforts to rally supporters, the turnout was noticeably underwhelming. The energy in the air was muted, the cheers sporadic. Some blamed the weather, a persistent drizzle that kept many indoors. Others pointed to a lack of enthusiasm, a sign that not everyone was eager to celebrate in such grand fashion. Still, the parade pressed on. A formal Army tribute took center stage, with a solemn 21-gun salute echoing across the National Mall, honoring 2.5 centuries of service and sacrifice. In a symbolic gesture, President Trump personally administered the oath of enlistment to 250 new Army recruits, each one representing a year of the Army's storied history. This moment was carefully crafted to link Trump's legacy directly to the future of the military, reinforcing his image as a leader deeply connected to the nation's armed forces. The intended message was clear: America is strong, its military is unmatched, and President Trump stands firmly at the helm, guiding the nation forward. Yet, the reality of empty seats and quiet stretches along the parade route was impossible to ignore. The contrast between the grand spectacle and the lackluster attendance was stark. The parade itself was visually stunning, a showcase of military precision and power. But the missing crowds cast a long shadow, raising questions about the true mood of the nation. As the last tank rolled away and the streets emptied, the day's intended triumph felt oddly incomplete, a reminder that even the grandest displays can't always manufacture unity or enthusiasm. As tanks rumbled down Pennsylvania Avenue in the heart of Washington, D.C., the Capitol was transformed into a display of military might. The parade, with its armored vehicles and soldiers, was meant to project strength and unity, but outside the Capitol, a very different story was taking shape, one that would capture the attention of the entire nation. Across the rest of the country, city streets remained calm, but beneath the surface, a powerful movement was gathering momentum. Under the bold banner of No Kings, millions of Americans poured into the streets. From bustling metropolises to quiet suburbs, and even in rural towns, people of all backgrounds joined together in protest. Their numbers swelled into the millions, with demonstrations erupting in thousands of cities and towns nationwide. The message was clear: the parade was not a harmless celebration, but a warning sign. Protesters saw it as evidence of creeping authoritarianism, a dangerous shift away from the democratic values the country was founded on. No Kings became a rallying cry, echoing the spirit of the American Revolution. Protesters invoked the nation's founding ideals, reminding everyone that America was built on the rejection of monarchy and unchecked power. With creativity and humor, demonstrators wielded clever signs and giant puppets to mock the president and the spectacle of the parade. Their satire underscored their serious concerns about the direction of the country. Many called the event a wasteful, ego-driven spectacle, questioning the use of public funds and the motives behind such a grand display. The movement exposed a deep national divide. While supporters in D.C. cheered the parade, dissenters across the country voiced their opposition, making it clear that not all Americans shared the same vision. Protests weren't limited to big cities. In small towns and rural communities, people also gathered, showing that resistance to the parade's message was truly national and crossed regional, political, and generational lines. Despite the massive turnout, the demonstrations remained mostly peaceful. Protesters marched side by side, chanting slogans and holding signs, determined to make their voices heard in a unified, nonviolent way. The day revealed a nation divided. Not everyone was united behind the parade's vision of power and patriotism. For many, it was a moment to stand up for democracy and civil liberties. In Washington, D.C., the show of state power was unmistakable, with National Guard troops, military vehicles, and security checkpoints dominating the scene. But across the rest of the country, a different kind of power was on display. Grassroots dissent, ordinary citizens coming together to defend the principles they believed in. The No Kings movement had become a defining moment in America's ongoing struggle over its identity and future. After the events concluded, a fierce numbers war erupted across the nation. Suddenly, the question on everyone's mind wasn't just what happened, but how many people had actually shown up. Newsrooms buzzed with speculation, and social media feeds filled with heated debates about the true size of the crowds. The administration quickly stepped forward, claiming that over 250,000 people attended the parade, proudly declaring it a massive success and a show of national unity. Officials insisted the turnout was historic, using the numbers to bolster their narrative. However, aerial photographs and independent analysts painted a very different picture. Wide shots revealed large empty spaces along the parade route, and experts estimated the actual attendance was far lower than official claims. The controversy over crowd size quickly dominated headlines, with newspapers and television anchors dissecting every available image and statistic. The debate became a national obsession, overshadowing the event itself. Meanwhile, the No Kings protests were unfolding on an entirely different scale. Reports estimated that between 4 and 6 million people participated in demonstrations across more than 2,000 locations nationwide, making it one of the largest protest movements in recent history. The difference was impossible to ignore. The protests not only dwarfed the parade in sheer numbers, but also in energy and enthusiasm. Protesters filled city streets, their voices echoing for miles, while the parade crowd seemed subdued and scattered. The contrast was stark. A modest gathering in D.C. stood in sharp relief against a nationwide wave of passionate dissent. The visuals told a story of two Americas, one quiet, the other roaring with purpose. Numbers became the story themselves. Journalists and analysts pored over every photo, every angle, trying to answer a simple question: where was the real passion, and who truly represented the nation's mood? The sparse turnout at the parade suggested that Trump's vision for the country didn't resonate as widely as he had hoped. The empty seats and quiet streets spoke volumes. In contrast, the protests revealed a deep, widespread opposition. People from all walks of life came together, united by a shared sense of urgency and purpose. On this day, the voices of dissent were unmistakably louder than those of support. The energy in the streets was palpable, a testament to the power of collective action. In the end, the numbers told the real story. They revealed not just who showed up, but where the nation's heart truly lay. The parade's cost, up to $45 million, sparked outrage. Critics, especially Democrats, called it a waste of taxpayer money. They argued the funds could have gone to veterans, infrastructure, or schools. Polls showed most Americans opposed the parade mainly because of the expense. For many, it felt like a self-indulgent display during a time of real need. The administration defended the cost as an investment in national pride and a tribute to the military. But the controversy stuck, fueling opposition and reinforcing the image of misplaced priorities. The tanks and jets became symbols of extravagance, not unity. The debate over cost became a debate over values. The parade was remembered as much for its price tag as its spectacle. The parade and protests became a national Rorschach test. Everyone saw what they wanted. Supporters saw patriotism and strength. Critics saw authoritarianism and political theater. The administration's carefully staged parade aimed to rally the base and project unity. The No Kings protests, just as organized, championed democracy and resistance. It was a battle of narratives, military might versus grassroots dissent. The day revealed two Americas, each with its own symbols and story. Tanks faced off against protest signs, salutes against chants of "No Kings." The events weren't just about one day, they were about the country's identity crisis. The world watched as two opposing visions of America played out side by side. The country was on edge, security was tight, especially in DC. Law enforcement braced for clashes, mindful of recent political violence. The military presence in the capital was both protective and unsettling. In Los Angeles, Marines in combat gear guarded protests, creating tense standoffs. The sight of armed soldiers facing civilians was jarring, fueling fears of overreach. The LA confrontations became a symbol of the day's volatility. While DC was scripted, Louisiana was raw and unpredictable. Critics saw the deployment as a dangerous blurring of military and domestic roles. The administration's narrative clashed with the reality on the streets. The day exposed the nation's deep distrust and simmering anger. At the parade, Trump delivered a speech focused on military greatness and patriotism. He avoided divisive topics, sticking to praise for the armed forces. The highlight swearing in 250 new Army recruits, reinforcing his image as a hands-on leader. The ceremony was a photo op, designed to link Trump to the military's future. Behind the scenes, he dismissed criticism about cost and turnout as fake news. The administration doubled down on the day's success, regardless of the optics. For Trump, the parade was about projecting strength and fulfilling his vision. The event was performance, unity on stage, controversy off it. Media coverage was relentless, but the story wasn't the parade, it was the contrast. News outlets showed a split-screen tanks in DC, millions protesting nationwide. The visual divide became the day's defining image. The administration wanted to project unity, but the world saw division. Low parade turnout versus massive protests made the event look like a rally for a shrinking base. Internationally, the spectacle was seen as turmoil, not strength. The parade became a symbol of hubris, not unity, the lasting image, a nation arguing with itself on the world stage. The parade aimed for unity, but delivered division. June 16, 2025 became a mirror reflecting a nation at odds. Two Americas performed for the world, one celebrating military might, the other demanding democracy. The No Kings protests hijacked the narrative, making dissent the day's headline. The legacy was symbolism. Supporters saw patriotism, critics saw excess. Empty seats in DC versus packed streets nationwide told the real story. Minds weren't changed, divisions deepened. The Army's 250th birthday became a showcase for political conflict. Even a military tribute became another battle in America's ongoing culture war.